We are Rogue Media Sports.
Who doesn't love a classic chocolate chip cookie? Famous Amos has been making them since the 70s, 1975 to be exact. With semi-sweet chocolate chips and a satisfying crunch, it's everything classic in one bite-sized cookie, and fans couldn't get enough. That's right. You'll find our original recipe, the one you know and love, in every bag of Famous Amos original chocolate chip cookies. Find Famous Amos anywhere you buy your favorite snacks.
With the Wells Fargo Active Cash Credit Card, you can earn unlimited 2% cash rewards on purchases you want and purchases you need. That means you earn 2% cash rewards on what you want, like season tickets to watch your favorite team, and 2% cash rewards on what you need, like paying for parking. That's the beauty of the Active Cash Credit Card. It's ready when you are, with unlimited 2% cash rewards. The Wells Fargo Active Cash Credit Card. That's real life ready. Terms apply. Learn more at wellsfargo.com/activecash.
It is the Doomsday podcast, and Ed Werder joining us from New Jersey. He's just been out in East Rutherford, and he's come from MetLife Stadium where he did all the interviews. In fact, as I was getting to the studio, Ed, I got to hear one of your questions, and I'm thinking that was the one perhaps for Dak that I was listening to, but it was good to hear you coming in loud and clear. And there's a lot being asked. It does seem interesting that we continue to talk about how bad the offense looks in these wins. And I can recall a time when the Cowboys were just happy to win a game. I guess they are happy, but it does seem like the offense is still in a bad way. But Ed, you land these ESPN exclusives after each game, and for the second time in the past 3 weeks, you had Tank Lawrence, DeMarcus Lawrence, who had a key role in this game. And I understand later we found out that perhaps Lawrence had made a bet with Dak Prescott in the offense that he seems to be winning pretty handily right now.
Yeah, I talked to DeMarcus Lawrence, as you said, for the second time in the 3 games since he returned, because they've won 3 consecutive road games and they forced 4 turnovers in each of those games. They're the first team to accomplish that since Carolina in 2005. And so when I talked to Lawrence outside the locker room for ESPN one-on-one, he talked about the mindset that Dan created and the mentality that they've developed with all of these turnovers. And he said it's about not just getting the ball, it's about scoring on defense with the ball. And we know they've done that. They did it last week. And they nearly did it today. Jordan Lewis nearly scored today off an interception that Lawrence created with pressure on Mike Glennon. But anyway, so the question you heard me ask Dak was about the fact that yesterday, after they had their practice and before they got on the plane, the defense, the audacity of this defense took the form of DeMarcus Lawrence going up to Dak Prescott and proposing a wager. Now I don't know, Dak didn't say what was going to be won or lost. He said it was going to be an evolving thing through the course of the season. But the bet is, Tank Lawrence bet Dak Prescott that the defense for the rest of the season would have more takeaways than the offense has touchdowns. And so the offense has bet against the defense. And as Dak Prescott said after the game today, right now they're kicking our ass. And the Cowboys beat the Giants 21-6, and Lawrence beat Dak 4-2 today. And I think we should point out, in fairness to DeMarcus Lawrence, that sometimes when they get these takeaways, it's to their own detriment in this bet, because the Cowboys' last 3 touchdowns on offense have been covered drives of 41 yards against Washington, 13 yards after the Lewis interception today, and 29 yards after they stopped them on 4th down and turned the ball over to the offense. So the defense has basically created 3 touchdowns for the offense on short fields in the last 2 weeks, including 2 today. But, Dak made the point that, hey, this isn't over. I'm confident we're going to get going and we're going to win this bet. He says, or maybe we won't. then that'll be just as good in terms of the end result for the team. But just as we talked about last week, it's just so incredible that the big three on this team was supposed to be Dak Prescott, Zeke Elliott, Amari Cooper, and it's turned into DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons, and Randy Gregory are the big three on this team. And that they're more interesting to watch when the defense is on the field, and now just as likely to score, quite honestly.
That's right. And even when they don't score, they hand the offense the ball right there on the doorstep. It is the Doomsday Podcast, and we've got a big-time show planned for you. And Glenn Stretch Smith will be along with his grades, and he's got a very interesting take on what's going on with this offense and this coaching staff. All that's coming up. Frito, would you please play the music? There it is, and always great to hear Ronnie Foss, the official singer-songwriter of the Doomsday Podcast. Cowboys win this thing 21-6, like most Cowboys wins lately. It's a good win. Feels a tad bit weird because, once again, I mean, you thought maybe the whole thing about this win or this game would be like a slump buster. I mean, don't you think, Ed, that was what the editors were getting ready for at our old place, the Dallas Morning News, slump buster or something like that? And really, what it turned into was the Cowboys capitalizing on an overmatched Giants offense. And then at the end, Ed, I mean, it reared its ugly head again, even though the game felt like it was completely over. What did they do? They handed the Giants the ball in their own territory with a chance to go make it a one-score game. I mean, that is seemingly happening on a weekly basis now.
And it's been Dak Prescott in all three games. He had an interception in the fourth quarter when the game seemingly was won against New Orleans. He had an interception last week against Washington, a pick six that turned it into a one-score game, and then the fumble today. So that does seem to be an issue. And my sense of it is, in having covered all these games and gone out to the Star during the week, that he admitted, he's frustrated. He's frustrated by the way they're being played by defenses, that they're not allowing the Cowboys the opportunity for the big play. I thought it was shocking today, that Mike McCarthy, he's run the offense in Green Bay with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, and he's known as supposedly an offensive, play caller with some level of expertise, though he's not doing that here. Mm-hmm. And he basically said, hey, we played it. We took a conservative approach on offense. We're trying not to lose the game. He didn't say that. We're trying not to lose the game effectively against the Giants. We know we're better than them. So if we don't screw it up, we're going to win. We're just going to let our defense go win the game for us. And, they've been able to do that for 3 straight weeks. And, my point here is they're +8 in turnover margin in those 3 games. And the starting quarterback for the other team has been Taysom Hill, Taylor Heineke, and Mike Glennon. I don't think they're going to meet any of those guys in the postseason.
No.
Is my sense. So what happens when they start playing these better quarterbacks? And you talk about being +8. We talked about the defense scoring touchdowns, creating a bunch of really short field opportunities. And in these 3 games, the Cowboys have scored 27 against New Orleans, 27 against Washington, and 21 against New York. Like, you should be scoring 40 points a game easy with the opportunities the defense has created. And to your point, when I was out there this week, the thing Dak kept saying was, hey, I told our guys in our signal caller meeting with the skill position players, I told them, hey, this is the week. This is the time. We got to get rolling on offense. The playoffs are coming. We're going to win the division, blah, blah, blah. And it didn't happen. And it didn't happen last week against Washington in either phase, passing game, running game, even though Washington, as we know, because of COVID, was without their 4 best defensive ends. And it didn't happen today against the New York Giants when they lost 8 defensive players to COVID. And that included not having their number 2 and number 3 corners today. I thought the Cowboys come in and really take advantage of them in the passing game like they did, in both phases when they played them in week 5. The Cowboys had a season high 44 points. They had over 500 yards in offense. That was a season high. To go out there and play like this on offense today? No, didn't meet their expectations at all. they've got to be really concerned about the way they're playing on offense.
I think you're absolutely right. And in looking at kind of what they were, I mean, there were some throws that he made that I think might have made Cowboys fans relax a little bit. You know, he moved pretty well, and he bought himself some time and made some throws along the sideline, and then he would hang one up. I think it speaks to kind of what you were just talking about, though, that can you imagine, like, here they are in a game like that. You've seen how it plays out. At some point, you just got to go ahead, kind of like the Washington game the week before, and just take that thing home. But what were they doing? I still think, and I don't know if you agree or not, but what Kellen Moore was attempting to do late in that game, 6 or 7 minutes left, when he got hit, fumbled, and the Giants got the ball, was desperately trying to get him to hit a ball, a deep shot downfield to get this quarterback's confidence going again. Like, in some ways, I mean, I'm glad they can joke about the defense taking over, but in some ways, like this whole coaching staff, and by the way, Ed, think about how many play callers they have on this staff. You got McCarthy, you got Moore, Nussmeier, I think, has done it before. Philbin's been a head coach. He's an offensive guy, the O-line coach. I mean, they're just sort of all over the place over there. There is some theory out there that there's just confusion right now. Maybe there are too many voices. I don't know. But to get back to the point I was trying to make, Ed, they literally tried to roll this quarterback out and let him throw deep just to try to give this guy some confidence, and they turned it over. They gave the Giants the ball at the end of the game, and they could have, if they had any competency at all, they could have made it a one-score game.
I think the one thing that they achieved offensively in this game, and again, you have to keep in mind the opponent. I mean, the Giants have lost double-digit games now for 5 years in a row. You know, they're 4-10. They have no talent, very little talent, and they had really no incentive today. And they still made it a 21-6 game, despite 4 turnovers. I mean, where's the offense? And the one thing they achieved, I thought, was they were a little more creative in the running game. I thought Ezekiel Elliott looked a little healthier. I mean, he only had 52 yards. He hasn't had more than 52 yards in 8 weeks. They got Tony Pollard back, and I thought he's really the only guy who creates any explosive plays in this offense right now.
Yes.
The receivers all got, and he doesn't start. He's a backup. He's a role player. I mean, CeeDee Lamb, 50 yards receiving. Michael Gallup, 32 yards receiving. Worse, Amari Cooper, 8 yards receiving.
Wow.
And I thought they did a better job in terms of, running some draws, some delays, some misdirections in the running game. They attacked the perimeter in a way that we haven't seen lately. And maybe that was because Connor Williams was back at left guard and he's a little more athletic. And, they didn't have Tyron Smith and Mike, McCarthy, who tells us how much he believes in offensive line continuity, is, changing guys out based on situation. Ty Nasheki is out there playing in pass protection situations. And Terrence Steele's playing some at left tackle. I don't know. He doesn't seem to be able to figure out who his best 5 are. And it's kind of like watching a preseason offense. Guys are like competing for playing time still. And it's 14 games into the year. Somehow they're 10-4 and they're up to 3rd in the NFC seeding. They're going to win the division going away, as we knew they would, but it's not what they imagined themselves being.
Cowboys tryouts. 14 games into the season. They're having like position battles. Hey, Nsekhe, get in there and mix it up a little bit. Want to see you. We like you in the pass game. And by the way, I think I maybe I should have saved this, but I'll bring it up anyway. We do have our mind-numbing Mike McCarthy moment of the week, and he sort of admitted after the game that he did it kind of like, what did he even call it? Like, what is that thing he called it? Like Sub-Zero or whatever. You know what I'm talking about? There's like 10 seconds left in the first half.
Before the half.
Yeah, and the whole, anybody watching at home and the quarterbacks looking over at the sideline, they have a timeout left. And so if you bang the timeout there, you can throw it in the end zone. And I think Mike McCarthy, either he was just baffled and didn't realize what was happening, or he literally didn't trust the quarterback to throw the ball in the end zone without getting a turnover. You're playing the hapless New York Giants, and they just let the clock tick down there and called the timeout with 3 seconds left and then kicked the field goal. I mean,
there's no question that he would not have done that with Aaron Rodgers. He would not. No. He would not have done that with Brett Favre, as reckless as Favre could be with the football. There's no question that he played not to lose in that situation. He admitted afterward he took the guaranteed points. He wanted the field goal, and he took it. And they did have a chance to throw the ball in the end zone, and unbelievably, they chose not to do it. I think it really speaks to where they are on offense and how little confidence the coaching staff has on that side of the ball. And whether it's, specific toward Dak, I don't know. He's always been, somebody you trust with the football. He's always valued it. Even when he was a rookie, in a way that, Tony Romo didn't until much later in his career. But that was just an unforgivable, failure to take advantage of an opportunity there in my mind.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, and I immediately thought of whatever you named that segment, which I think we need a sponsor just for that segment. What was it? Did you call it like the
mind-boggling coaching decision of the week?
I think you should take that to yeah.
We do have to give Mike credit because he did use his challenge flag for the 100th time in his career to ensure that Trayvon Diggs got his 10th interception of the season. And that made Mike McCarthy 50 for 100 in his 15-year coaching career using the challenge flag. So use the challenge flag much better than he exercised good judgment in the red zone at the end of the first half. And, oh, by the way, what an abomination the red zone continues to be for the Cowboys, especially when they're on the road. At home, they're like the second best red zone team in football. And on the road, they're next to last. And they did it again today. I think they were 2 for 6. They've been 33% the last 3 weeks, and they were like 2 for 6 today, scoring touchdowns in the red zone. And that's quite honestly, that's been an issue, for Kellen Moore for a number of years, ever since he's been the play caller. That's been an issue that he's been unable to resolve. As much as I respect and like Kellen Moore, they haven't been good. You just have to say that. They haven't been good in that part of the field. Yeah,
no, they haven't at all. And as you were talking, I was trying to find that field goal, what it was. Oh, so, I mean, it's just crazy. I was looking at when they decided to kick that field goal. So, it's just, I cannot believe.
There were 9 or 10 seconds left at the end of the play before, and they had a timeout to use.
Yeah. The play before was a short left to Schultz to the Giants 9 for 9 yards. So they're sitting there. I mean, that's amazing. They're right there on the doorstep.
He either didn't trust his quarterback to protect the football in that situation, or he didn't trust his offensive line, which had just given up a 12-yard sack, no chance, third down sack, on Dak. The previous possession that pushed him deeper toward the edge of Greg Zuerlein's field goal range. And, oh, by the way, he missed 2 more extra points today. So if you want to, have your sleep disrupted, and that could be another reason you can't sleep tonight if you're a Cowboys fan. But yeah, I mean, it was a bizarre, and I don't think very many coaches would have taken that approach and just thrown away a chance to get 4 additional points in a game that was pretty close where, based on what he said, they knew they weren't going to score a lot of points because of the approach they were taking on offense.
Well, Ed, I think you both know, by the way, I was just watching a shot of, was that Casey with that
horse collar?
Yeah, the horse collar. The guy runs forever, then gets a horse collar. I mean, the Giants are just horrible. Like literally, their whole offense were 2 plays today. It wasn't even the great back. I mean, he fumbled today. It was like the Booker or somebody ran for 2 big
Devontae
plays.
Booker.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like the quarterback couldn't do anything. Like what they were joking about on TV was true. It was like, well, good thing they didn't. Or maybe it was on Twitter I saw this. Good thing they didn't start Fromm. Didn't it say, when he came in there, it looked like Eli was back. I mean, he was racing them down the field. All right, Ed, it is Miller time, and getting into the holiday spirit is as simple as giving your friends and family the gift of Miller time. Don't let the holiday season stress you out. Instead of getting wrapped up in the hoopla of the holidays, raise a Miller Lite and cheers to keep things uncomplicated. Since 1975, Miller Lite has been the beer with taste you can depend on. No games, no gimmicks, just a beer and gift for people who like beer. Ed, stop sending emails during this. Ed, would you think back, by the way, to some of our personal experiences, like with Galloway on the road after a game like this? We would go down. He would order a pizza. You and I would probably order a salad or something. But we would be in the hotel bar, and he would start ordering up Miller Lights. Let's not say how many he had. But, Ed, that experience of Galloway, maybe you would even sneak a Miller Lite down. Don't you remember, because you had your day's work behind you, and you could just let down your hair and maybe watch that Sunday night game? Wasn't that a great feeling during the holidays?
Yeah, I could just come back to my hotel room and I wouldn't have 2 other people fearing me infecting them with COVID in the elevator because I didn't have a mask on, abandoning ship and getting out and let me have it by myself and having to go to my room and do the Doomsday podcast. It didn't exist at the time. I could just go right down to the bar, pound my fist and curl my finger and tell the bartender I'd like a Miller Lite.
Yeah. Those were the days, Ed. Just sitting there dreaming of that. For more gift ideas for beer lovers, visit the Miller Lite shop at shop.millerlite.com and give your friends and family the gift of Miller Lite this holiday season. Miller Lite, great taste, 96 calories. Give the gift of Miller Lite this holiday season by going to millerlite.com/doomsday to find delivery options near you or pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere they sell beer. 'Tis Miller time. We'll have more from Ed on that couple that jumped out of the elevator in horror when Ed did not have his mask on. I don't know what's going on there in Newark. To celebrate responsibly, Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. All right, Ed, I want us to collect ourselves, and I really want you to put this in perspective, because this defensive performance was beyond belief. But before we do that, let's get ready and let's hear, because this is something, and Ed, you're going to want to hear all this. Stretch has a theory on what's going on with Dak, the play caller, and the rest of this offense. And he's shown to be on top of some of this stuff, especially with his thought that something is wrong with Dak, before a lot of other people were even bringing this up. Here is our weekly visit with Glenn Stretch Smith. And Stretch, another victory for the Cowboys. And while they're happy to take it, and if you'll look at the Cardinals have gone out, and now they have the same record. I think I was disputing you recently when you were maybe thinking the Cardinals could end up tied with the Cowboys. Well, here we are. It's like already happening. I think they immediately dropped 2 straight games. So all of this is coming to fruition, and it's sort of up in the air now for could the Cowboys grab that second wild card, or that second seed. So it's going to be really interesting to see. Stretch, before we start breaking down the whole offense, everybody wants to hear your take on Dak Prescott. And I know, Stretch, there's some stuff going on right now. And let's start right here with a conversation we've already had off air today. Let's start with the fact that Dak Prescott, about 8 minutes to go, whatever it was, 6 minutes to go in the game, when they're up 21-6, the game's basically over. and they decide to roll Dak out, and they want him to throw deep back across the field. Stretch it. Does it seem sometimes like this coaching staff is so desperate to get this guy out of this abyss, funk, slump, whatever we want to call it, that it's times they are sacrificing, almost willing to sacrifice things to get this guy going again?
Well, Matt, this has happened 3 weeks in a row now. This is not the first week. We saw it happen in New Orleans. We saw it happen last week. We saw it happen this week. There's no question that the staff, that being Mike McCarthy, who's an offensive mind, the offensive staff, they know that the quarterback is not playing well. He needs a confidence boost. He needs something. I mean, I'll take the baseball analogy. I mean, he needs a home run. He needs to, he needs a good shot. He needs a shot in the arm. They're trying to get him that. And for 3 straight weeks, they have put their football team in a position that's been up 2 scores to absolutely drive it to where they've got, it's not only off the road. I use a Randy Galloway term. They've got it in the ditch. And so, yes, they're trying to get this quarterback out of that situation. Now, Matt, let me say this, and let me preface this to everybody, is that you can tell when you watch the running game and how this team is running the football that it's not just what the Dallas Cowboys used to do, lead, draw, inside zone, outside zone. You're seeing multiple different looks and multiple different blocking schemes. So what that tells me, as someone who is analyzing this and who you pay your hard-earned dollars to give Stretch a few dollars to give you an analytical standpoint, I'm telling you that when you watch the run game today, this team is not running the same plays that they're comfortable with coming off the football. It has a West Coast feel to it. Nothing wrong with a West Coast offense, but they're trying to mesh these 2 situations together. And quite frankly, it stinks right now. I'm just going to tell you that. And I'm not in here to style point a win. The Cowboys won. Yes, they went up to New York, a hard place to win. The wind's blowing, and they got it done, Matt. But when you think about how this is unfolded and how the last really 5 or 6 weeks of this season have played out, this team is nowhere near where they were offensively. Now we're talking the first 6 weeks of the season. And I think that, to me, that's alarming, and it's something that we need to talk about, because I don't think that these guys are on the same page. I feel kind of 2 different factions in the Cowboys offensive scheme right now, whether that be Kellen Moore and Doug Nussmeier and how they look at offense. And then you've got this Green Bay faction of guys. And I don't want to drive a wedge. I'm just telling you what I see and how I see it. And right now, yes, to go back, and I'm giving you a long answer, they're absolutely trying to help this quarterback get him out of what is, a funk and not playing very well.
Yeah, and they've gotten asked about it every which way. And it's an interesting thing you say, because they've got some play callers in McAdoo has called plays. And, in fact, he got a head coaching job with the Giants based on how he called plays. And McCarthy has called plays. Now Kellen Moore has called plays. That's a really interesting thing, that there might be some different factions of all this happening. Now, if you had to grade out today, Stretch, the numbers looked okay not much on a yards per attempt basis, but I looked late in the game and it was like 28 for 36, and I thought, oh my gosh, he's been okay. Now, of course, at that point he'd only thrown for about 211 yards, and there's still some stuff that just baffles you. Although there were some good throws. One thing I did notice, Stretch, you and I have been talking about how he doesn't generally have the sort of arm talent that a Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers has. But I will say today, he did drop that arm angle down a few times and made some decent throws. So I don't think he broke out of anything, but I do think he at least had his moments in this game. What was your sort of breakdown of the quarterback's play?
Well, I mean, again, Dak, he made, and it's not helping him when he throws the deep two and hits CeeDee Lamb right in stride and he drops the football. To me, that they're trying to help Dak, and it looks like you're getting some routes run that are not very crisp routes. Again, that feels like a little bit of like they're trying to mesh another system with the system they've got. And it's just not working. I'm just telling you, the depths of the routes are off. There's just a bad feel for what's going on offensively right now. But with Dak today, I thought at least he threw the ball away at times. He moved in the pocket okay, and he was able to make some throws that in some tight windows that were okay. I hated that he missed that deep shot there, that they did take the deep shot, because I'm hoping that they would take some more shots down the field, some double posts, some things to give him an opportunity to really push that ball down the field. But I mean, he did an okay job today. You got to win. I mean, to me, you got to give him. You got to give him a B and an okay effort.
All right, got a B. We'll move on. The stretch the running backs. Pollard continues to be the guy that gives you the most spark. He obviously has the most speed. It was good to see Zeke get in the end zone. That was the longest run he'd had in several weeks to get in from, I believe that was 13 yards out. He did run with some power at least, and then even on, I like that little where he kind of lined up in that fullback spot and they handed off on like kind of that quick hitter. I actually liked the way that looked. I believe they might have had CD back at tailback in that particular alignment. But what'd you make of the running back? So we can even include CD, who lined up back there a few times.
Yeah, no, I did see some good things. You continue to see good things out of the running backs. These are two really good running backs. I mean, you saw Pollard pick that ball off the ground that time and then get up off the ground and stick it up in there for the first down. I mean, you made them mentions of Zeke. Zeke runs the ball hard. They both block well. I mean, great effort by both of those guys today. And to me, you give the running backs an A. Great job for what they did.
All right, and then Connor Williams goes back in there at left guard. Obviously, they did a little bit of a switching out. Still, is it? Well, you had your man over at left tackle, and then Inseki came in there and spelled him for a little bit. The offensive line play overall, was it spotty, or did you feel okay about it?
No, I like the fact that they moved Connor Williams back in there. I like the fact that they put McGovern back there at fullback some and let him lead up in there. Unfortunately, that's not something they really major in. I think Nsheki is just kind of a stopgap guy that played over at left tackle, and you see him get beat some. I'm still in favor of leaving Connor Williams at the guard position. I think you saw some good things in the first half from that group, and I thought overall the offensive line played okay today, and I gave that group a B. Receivers wise, Matt, I thought that again you had CD dropping some balls. They tried to take Cooper away from him. I thought Gallup did a nice job. Turner did okay. So I mean, really an okay job from that bunch today. I gave the running backs, again, a really good grade, and I gave the receivers a C. Again, dropping the ball. CD, you can't drop the ball in that situation.
Yeah, and I guess we would have to say that the tight end really kind of came back and got his game going. He'd been a little bit missing in recent weeks, and I believe he had 8 targets, 8 catches, and really provided a spark. And I mean, my gosh, right after he catches the ball, he'll lower his head and get some yards for you. Was it good to see that tight end position get that much production? Even Sprinkle got involved a little bit.
Yeah, it is good to see Schultz. He's very aware in the passing game. I mean, you can tell coming out of Stanford. I mean, he's a good pass catcher. He's a good route runner. Not a very good blocker. Neither one of those guys are very good blockers. They miss kind of that end of the line of scrimmage guy. But I mean, they don't run a lot of outside plays. So, I think overall, I grouped the tight ends in with the receivers. I gave them all a C. From a pass game standpoint, not very much from a run game standpoint.
All right, and we will continue to talk about, I find your comments really interesting about the West Coast and maybe about what we would say is there's a lot of voices right now, and perhaps it is causing a bit of confusion. Stretch, on the other side of the ball, this continues to be the team's calling card. They turn you over. I mean, I think this is 3 straight games with 4 or more turnovers, and it's first time, Stretch, that's happened since 1994. You can recall what was happening in those years with the Cowboys, and a remarkable amount of interceptions that they are getting. Stretch, let's start with the secondary. And, Jordan Lewis made a couple of really big plays today. Diggs gets the one late. Anthony Brown came up and made some hits. And then, of course, Curse, Casey. I mean, Hooker had a big interception. That looked like that back end of the defense had a tremendous day.
No, they're playing better. I like what you're seeing out of all of those guys. I mean, I really do. I think that you've got at times you have Neal who gets a little bit out of position, but they're almost playing him at a linebacker. I see so many good things from the secondary and from. Even it looks like Brown kind of has got his confidence back after what happened against the Raiders. They're playing him a little more soft. He's a little deeper off the ball and not having to get him up there and play so much bump man and get him in those positions where he's having to hold. But the secondary played very well today. Man, I gave the secondary an A. Linebackers continue to do really good things. I mean, I know we're not calling Vander Esch's name a lot, but I see him really where he's supposed to be, when he's supposed to be there. I like that. And then I really like the fact that you're having, you're getting Watkins, you're getting some of these guys that you didn't even know were going to get substantial playing time, from and making some impact from a defensive line standpoint. Here's the other thing, though, Matt, that I like a lot is that this is, again, another time where Quinn is lining up his best guys. And just because you're a defensive end doesn't mean that you can't go down and be a 3 technique and play over the guard. And you saw Lawrence do that today in a matchup that you really like. So overall, I mean, you've got to be extremely happy with what you see from the defense, from the defensive staff, from how it's coordinated, from what they're doing, how they're putting their guys. It's almost like they're learning more about their personnel every week, and they're putting them in better position to make more plays. And they just keep doing it. It's almost like you can call out when you're expecting a big play right there. They brought Fromm in at quarterback, and I'm telling you, Diggs sat on that route, and it looked like he was just going to jump it right there to get a pick six. So anytime guys, and they even mentioned it on the TV, anytime those guys are playing with a lot of confidence like that, it really makes you feel, as a Cowboy fan and as somebody who's looking at the film, it makes you feel like, boy, this is a defense that you're going to be able to really hang your hat on. And I think it's remarkable when you think about last year to this year. And I know there's some different pieces, but you think about how much better this defense plays, with how much more speed they play, with when they arrive, they're getting there and they are making tackles or getting guys on the ground. I mean, it's amazing to watch it. And you have to me, I'm crediting Dan Quinn with everything that defense is doing, and a bunch of guys who are buying in and playing their ass off right now.
And they're handing the offense points. I mean, one of those was the Giants ended up going for it deep in their in their own territory. and one of those that they got the ball down there at about the 13-yard line on one of the touchdowns the Cowboys had, the second touchdown, and they're delivering the points to the offense. So, to that point, it is complimentary in the sense that the offense has been so bad and the defense has been an unbelievable compliment. I don't know if it's complimentary football as much as it's saving football. And Stretch, you can see me right now. I mean, how about that? That Lawrence punch? I mean, he arrives, as our old buddy used to say, with what he used to say, bad intentions, okay? But then he takes that fist and he punches the ball out of there, and just a tremendous play by Lawrence. And you're right, they're lining those guys up all over the place. It's funny, today we're so shocked when Parsons doesn't do a whole bunch of stuff. And I say that he broke up a pass in the end zone, didn't he? I mean, he lined up, at cornerback.
Yeah, they traded the coverage right there, and he ran with the wheel route and knocked the wheel route down. That's what I'm saying. I mean, these guys are understanding what the coordinator wants them to do. They're being put in a position where it's played to their strengths, and quite frankly, right now, I mean, again, you've got to be extremely happy with how the Cowboys offense is playing. Special teams, I've been hard on Bones Fossil. I mean, Zerline, he misses the 2 extra points. I'm telling you, I've been in that stadium, and when that wind is whipping at 20 miles an hour, it can blow the ball everywhere. I think it's very hard for me to be critical of that, but I'm going to finish it by saying this, Matt. I think that, what I said initially at the start of this podcast is something that, I think we need to continue to take a look at and really give ourselves a hard view of what's going on and how they're handling this, not only the quarterback, but how they're handling the offense.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think a lot of people out there are going to be a little shocked to see you being as kind to Bones Fossil as you were after those 2 missed extra points. I'll say this, nobody loves kind of getting over there in Mike's ear like Bones Fossil. Have you ever noticed that? Like it'll be it'll be 3rd and 7, and Mike's got us be thinking about, okay, are we going to go for it? Might we go for it on 4th down? And Bones, think about that. I guess Bones, what is Bones even doing over there? Like maybe he's talking about like the field goal team or where they would be good from. I don't know, but it always seems like Bones is up in his ear.
And he's got his hat pulled down a little bit like you got your hat pulled down right now, like you're coming out of shoot number 3 on Fu Man's shoe. You got it pulled down there pretty tight, and I'm waiting on you to crack yourself across the right cheek and say, hey, boys, let's dance a little. Let's dance.
I was going to show you the hair. The hair is really...
I tell you, I'm glad that you didn't. I'm glad you put a curveball in and you got your trucker's hat on with the flat bill. It fits you, Mosley.
Well, it's certainly it's a big moment for the show, big moment for you. And I got to say, I enjoyed, and I appreciate you being a part of it. I enjoyed getting to write about you a little bit for FoxSports.com this week and mentioning you and Joe Dickinson and some of the things y'all have been teaching as we were trying to break down what Dak was doing. And so folks got to see you in print as well as hear you on the podcast. I was really looking, Stretch, as I was talking there, for my latest some of the Miller Lite talk that we've been doing. And, I think it's...
anybody that doesn't realize, if you've ever looked in the back of Mosley's his Jeep Grand Cherokee, if you would sprinkle some corn in that back seat and be quiet for about 30 minutes, you'd kill a horned animal out of there. I promise you, he has got more unorganizational riffraff in his vehicle than anybody, and he is shuffling around papers right now like a madman trying to figure out how to get us Miller Lite read. Come on, Mosley.
I can't find it. Well, I'll do it later. I'm sorry. I was looking forward to doing that Miller Lite read with you.
I don't understand. We got Miller Lite, we got Goodness steak seasoning, and we can't get either one of them. And you're over there playing Go Fish with a bunch of damn papers. You don't even know what to do.
Good night. Good night. I'll talk to you soon. All right, there he was, and I find it interesting, and I think the quarterback ended up getting something like a B is where he finished on this thing. But Ed, I kind of wanted to get your take on this. Before we got to the defense, it's Stretch's theory that you got the play caller, who I know you admire a lot, Kellen Moore, doing his thing, and then you got all these guys with like West Coast backgrounds that kind of want a different kind of thing. And one thing that Stretch is picking up on, Ed, is that they're not running the same play, like the running play, more than once. Like, even if something's working great, they'll kind of feel like they constantly need to change it up. And so he's seeing a lot of sort of West Coast influence. And I can't say that I think Kellen, we've made such a thing about what's going on with this quarterback. Ed, the same question could be asked, what's going on with this play caller? And I kind of want to get your take on that as you watch all this play out. The running game actually worked for them today. 125 yards rushing. I thought the Pollard looked really good, even though apparently he's been banged up. He missed a game, but he was like 6-7 yards a carry today. But Ed, do you think there's anything to that maybe the play caller's gone into a funk as well?
Well, first of all, I want to make the point that my understanding is Dak Prescott is 100% healthy. He flatly told me in a private one-on-one conversation after last week's game, where my point to him was, if you're hurt, I understand that you're not going to use it as an excuse and you're not going to admit that to people in general. But I think it would be fairest to you if people evaluated your performance knowing whether you're healthy or not. And he assured me that he is as healthy as he has been since the season started. I did not stop there. I have asked Stephen Jones. I've asked members of the coaching staff privately. Everybody insists this quarterback is healthy. So it would seem like somebody would want to use it as an excuse, if it were at all legitimate, to justify, sort of his new level of play and what it's been for the past 2 months and how different it is from where it was the first half of the season. And to me, that's the whole thing. Like, if this group of players and this system and this play caller were so successful for half the season, why is it now such an issue for them to even approach the levels of productivity that we saw early on? I mean, nothing has really been right, with the exception of the Atlanta game, since they played, Vic Fangio and the Broncos, and Fangio, said, hey, people aren't playing this team the right way, and we did. And I think people would look at anything Vic Fangio did successfully, given that he's coached defense in the NFL for 40 years, and try to copy some elements of that, and they have. And the thing Prescott keeps talking about is, hey, they're not letting us go down the field. They're playing a shell defense, 2 high safeties. Well, that's not a new concept. People, like, I remember Aikman's 90s teams faced those same defenses. They didn't want Michael and Alvin Harper to get over the top either. And so he hit Novacek, and the running, Emmitt Smith had a huge day running the football. That's how you beat that. Why this team can't make that adjustment, I don't know, but I really don't think it's a conflict. First of all, I don't think Dak's hurt. And secondly, I don't think it's a conflict of philosophies. I think Mike has been, either by choice or by force of the ownership, forced to empower and grant autonomy to Kellen Moore as a play caller. So I don't know why. I mean, maybe he hasn't adjusted well. They have not adjusted well, but I don't know that it's a mix of different philosophies and that there's too many of them involved here. That's my point of view. Stretch can see those things differently than maybe I would. but I've never heard anybody make that point in all the time that I've talked to players at the Star and at games.
All right. And I think during that exclusive conversation, you probably should have just said, heck, it might be good. It would behoove you to let me say, according to sources, you could barely get out of bed in the morning and could barely move. It sounds like you were almost headed that way. Like, Nick, you might want to get an injury out here on the record.
I wasn't trying to say use it as an excuse. I was just wanting to say, look, if there's something wrong with you, then let me know.
Yeah.
And I won't quote you on it, but we should let people know that you have this issue and that may be part of why things have, I don't know what, this downward spiral has taken place in both his play and that of the offense in general. If I'm playing bad and somebody gives me that excuse, I'm going with it. Let's roll with that.
Yeah, I remember an old quarterbacking buddy of ours who would have gone with it in a heartbeat. But all right, I do want to mention, by the way, Goodness Steak Seasoning, created by our friend Jason Velo. I
got mine this week.
Oh, good.
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah. And now, do you like, if you and Jill are cooking something around the house there, do you go with chicken, or is it more of a meat steak type deal? Do you like putting steaks on the grill? Do you like do you ever do some buffalo? What is your favorite?
I'm not a wild game guy, really. I've had one buffalo burger in my life, and I was tricked into it by my son and grandson Henry. So I ate it for his benefit, but now I like it on hamburgers. I love it on steaks. I like a grilled steak, and I think the seasoning really adds something to it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And Ed would never say it unless he believed it. And the packaging, blend of Texas herbs and spices. Right now, it's starting to go throughout the world. The folks of Central Texas are starting to hear about it. It's great on steaks, chicken, hamburgers, grilled vegetables, and much more. Ed Werder, who's as he's grown up a little bit, has started eating his veggies, and I'm glad that he's doing that. Just go to bringthetasty.com. Bringthetasty.com to order your bottle today. Remember to take a picture of yourself with bringthetasty.com, send it to me, and I'll be sending out T-shirts. I'm getting them designed as we speak, and there will be Doomsday T-shirts, okay? And for the holidays, what better than a jar or two of Goodness Steak Seasoning? Okay, I'm going to give those out as some gifts myself. All right, Ed, let's talk about the positives from the game. And I would say it continues to be a huge positive. The takeaways. 4 more takeaways. I don't even know. You probably know off the top of your head what the turnover margin is. I'd have to say the Cowboys are up there in turnover margin in the league, but they are on a roll. And I think I did see a stat where 3 straight games of 4 or more takeaways. Ed, that last time that happened, all the way back to when you were covering those Super Bowl teams, 1994. My gosh, think about who would have been involved in that. That would have been
Barry Switzer's first year.
1994. It's hard to believe, but that would have been Tolbert and Haley and Casillas,
Russell, Maryland.
Yeah, maybe Thomas Everett back there, James Washington, some of those guys. Darren Woodson would have been involved. He'd have just shown up on the scene about that time. Anyway, that's it's remarkable, Ed. But you do such a great job of putting these things in perspective. This is an incredible run this defense is on right now.
Yeah, and Trayvon Diggs, his 10th interception that ties Mel Renfro in 1969 for the second most interceptions in a season in franchise history. Everson Walls obviously holds a team record, his 11 picks in 1981. But Diggs did say after the game that he revealed that 10 interceptions was his goal when the season started. And here he's achieved it in 14 games. He still has 3 more games left. And it'll be interesting to see how high he resets that expectation now. And Diggs and Micah Parsons are the first teammates with 10 interceptions and 10 sacks since Antonio Cromartie and Sean Merriman of the 2007 Chargers. The only other tandem in the last 20 years to do that is Ty Law and John Abraham of the 2005 Jets. So Micah Parsons stands out even on probably his quietest day so far in the NFL. Just one tackle, no sacks, one pressure. But obviously he still makes an impact on the game in terms of, I know Joe Judge said they needed to know where he was on every play, and Dan Quinn certainly makes locating him difficult. But he creates some opportunities for, other guys to get one-on-ones like Lawrence and Randy Gregory, who didn't get home today either. But the defense is playing phenomenal football. The offense, I just don't understand why they're having so many problems when they have so much talent on that side of the ball. It's really baffling to me.
And now, as you said, the head coach is admitting he has so much trust that the defense is going to get things done. He's just got taken 3 points. Like, think about it. The analytics these days, every coach is like, well, you're supposed to go for it down here, supposed to go for it. And on one of those plays, he was, I think everybody thought one of the decisions on like whatever it was, 3rd and 6 or 3rd and 7, was setting up the opportunity to go for it. And you could see McCarthy. He never even thought about going for it. He was like, "Get out there and kick the field goal." And to
me, the biggest beneficiary, the biggest beneficiary of their bad offense has been their punter, Brian Anger. He pinned the Giants at the 9, the 8, and the 7 today. I mean, when you're trying to play a field position game with a conservative offense and let your defense dominate, I mean, that's a lot easier to do when you're forcing the Giants to go 90 yards for a touchdown, because as we saw, that's never going to happen.
Do you know what? So you saying that makes me think, what McCarthy did a good job of doing today with his punter?
What's that?
I thought it was good anger management.
Well, and to the point you were making before, that they thought they were in 4-down territory. I think McCarthy explained why that changed, because he said, wasn't it like, 3rd and 7? I think the run just didn't get us anywhere close enough that we could go for it on 4th down. Like, I didn't know we were just going to get 2 yards on that run. I thought we'd get 5 or 6 and it'd be an easy call. We get the first down on 4th down, but that's not what happened. But I mean, the thing about the end of the half that's just so odd and out of character is, I mean, how many times have we complained this year about McCarthy turning down short field goals because he has so much confidence in his offense, and now he's doing just the opposite. That's how bad things have gotten on the offensive side of the ball. No matter what they say when they're standing up there in these press conferences and justifying it and explaining it all away, that's how alarming it is. It's completely changed the way an offensive head coach is managing the game.
Yeah, it's that bad. It's that inefficient, and it's spearheaded by this quarterback that was at one point this season on his way to a possible MVP. And Ed, you said something earlier in the podcast that made me think of Parcells. And here's the part: Bill was getting involved in analytics before analytics was cool. Now, analytics is trying to play catch up with baseball and basketball and some of these other sports, and now football analytics is somehow trying to take off, and it may be getting a little out of control. But what Bill would say, he had a formula. You remember this? If you had 4 takeaways, or if you had a turnover margin of 4 or 3 or whatever the case may be, like, you should have a certain score. And the scores you just were reading off to me, which were like 27, 21, 21, whatever it was, like
27, 27, 21. Yeah.
They don't match up with what they're doing defensively. Like, they're not cashing in. And then I saw the graphic on Fox today, and you kind of hinted at it or brought it up earlier. They're really good at getting in the end zone at home. I mean, like, when they get in the red zone, they're pretty good at it. And on the road, they're horrible at it. They're literally in the last 2 or 3 teams in the entire league. They're right there with Detroit or whoever you want to say is the worst team in the league, although Detroit's now one of the hotter teams in the league. But they can't cash in on the road in the red zone. They can't get in the end zone. So I just thought that was interesting because I think that was one of the things. Parcells used to have a formula, and what it basically was kind of what you were talking about. There's no way in the world you're supposed to finish 21 points today with his formula.
Right. Because he has a bad team. They're a bad team. It's not like you're playing one of the great defenses in football and they keep, limiting your opportunities after turnovers and short fields. Not at all. This is a bad team. They have nothing to play for. You rolled them for 44 points when they were good. You had 500 yards when they were good. You had 300 yards passing and 200 yards rushing. That's when they were interested. That's when they had all their players. I mean, they lost them during the game on offense, but that's when they cared. They didn't care today. What do they have to play for?
Nope.
And to the point about, the red zone, the first part of the season, they were 20 for 33, almost 61%. And then going into today's game, their previous 4 games, they were 4 for 13. And that's 30.7% touchdowns in the red zone. And I think they were 2 for 5 or 2 for 6 today. But they're home. They went into the today's game. They're 78% red zone efficiency, scoring touchdowns at home. And that's second to San Francisco. And on the road, 33.3%, 31st in the NFL. Only Detroit is worse. And so I think these are all very disconcerting statistics, because what's going to happen when they don't get 4 turnovers every week, or when they do play a good team that's going to score points? What are the Cowboys going to do about that? In the old day, I mean, until the last 2 months, we thought they could score with anybody. Now they can't score no matter what opportunities their defense gives them. And with the point totals we mentioned, the 27 against New Orleans, the 27 against Washington, the 21 against New York, those include points the defense scored. Like Dorrance Armstrong had a touchdown last week, right?
Yeah, scoop and score.
So it's not just they're scoring these nominal numbers, even when they're given all these great opportunities by their defense, but that includes points that the defense has actually scored, not just set up like they did the first half today. 9 of the 15 points at halftime today were set up by the defense, by turnovers, short fields. They're just not getting it done on offense, and somebody better figure it out sooner. They're looking at getting eliminated in the first round of the playoffs, no matter where they're seated.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think they shouldn't really be worried about where they're seated. I think they've got to get some kind of rhythm going. And right now, it's completely, think about how we came into the season thinking that, the offense was going to be great. Defense just needed to cause a few turnovers and be okay. It's completely flipped, and now they need the defense to be dominant, and that is the best part of their team. And all these guys they're paying these huge contracts to just aren't that good. They're not. We don't know if they're not playing that well. Good. They're just not playing that well.
Playing well. They're not. Mm-hmm. They're not performing as expected. They're not justifying their salaries. And you're right. There's no way going into this season. And it's not like, well, we were just wrong from the start. That perspective was correct for the first 2 months of the season. When they were 6-1, they're winning with offense.
Golly, just hard to fathom. And I'm just looking at some of these. Got a game coming up. Got a game coming up tonight. The Buccaneers sitting at 10-3. Arizona's kind of coming backwards into their hands. I was going to look real quick. What did the Packers end up doing? Anyway,
they're playing the Ravens without Lamar Jackson today.
Yeah. So just interesting.
But the Cowboys have scored. I think you almost asked me this question earlier. This is the last point I need to make.
Yeah.
They've scored 98 points off turnovers this year. Only the Colts and our dear friend Matt Eberflus, who was a Cowboys assistant before he went to Indianapolis to work with Josh McDaniels, who decided not to take that job, and he's working with Frank Reich instead. Only the Colts have more takeaways and have scored more points off turnovers than the Cowboys to this point.
Wow. Well, that is remarkable. And by the way, the Packers are up 31-30 over the Ravens with 42 seconds left in that game. So that was coming down the wire here, and it does look like the Packers have the ball and will win this game and go and win it 31-30. John Harbaugh has a very sour look on his face. Now, I did want to say, since you'll be listening to this, by the way, like 4 hours from now, but I did want to say thanks to my good friend Rich Cavness. Ed, you've been seeing these things on Twitter. People are buying this book, or they actually get a free book. If you'll go to powertothrive.net, put your email in, you can get the free book. And Rich Cavness is quite the motivational speaker. And I'm starting to get all kinds of feedback that people who have read this, it's changed their lives. Ed, there's one chapter, and of course I'm going to send you in this care package I'm putting together for you. There's one chapter that deals with like leaving yourself margin for error in your life, and even to the point of leaving yourself enough time to get places. I thought, Ed, you would appreciate that about me, like that perhaps I could use some of that.
I think you should highlight that and read it every morning.
To see if I could get through life. And there's some stuff on neuroplasticity, which kind of talks about what our mind is capable of. Can we change our mindset? Not too late to do that. And for someone that kind of their mind is all over the place, I like that. I like hearing that I might be able to train it for good instead of evil. But no, powertothrive.net. It is really good, and it really derives from 2 Timothy 1:7. I won't ask Ed to quote that, but it's a good verse, and really does speak. It's not always used, but I've found it to be very inspirational. Powertothrive.net, Rich Cavness. All right, Ed, as we say goodnight, and you can highlight anything you want, I did want to thank you. You were kind enough to get involved in a story that a young man named Tyler McComas, who's in radio, they did a story kind of on my comeback from the bike accident. And I thought it was well done by him, and especially the part where he referred to me as a radio star. I think that tripped up a few people. But I really, but I thought you said some nice things, and you and I had some fun. But you were there when all that was happening, and I think, as you stated in the story, you didn't quite know how dire the wreck was until you kind of saw me for the first time on screen, and then you were like, "Oh wow, he is kind of messed up." So, but thanks for being a part of that. I thought Tyler did a nice job on that, and he is now a big fan of yours.
Oh, very good. I'm glad I was able to participate and give my perspective on that. I know you tried to keep me in the dark there for a while when it was touch and go. So I appreciate you sparing me that. And thankfully, you've overcome it all with the help of your live-in nurse, Meredith, your wife. Took great care of you. And it was shocking when it took 3 or 4 weeks. I think I did the podcast by myself before you were able to even get on for 5 minutes and just share an update on your condition. And you were obviously very weak, and huge neck brace and an even bigger recliner. So it's remarkable what people are able to overcome. And Frito obviously is another example of that. So if they need to do a second piece on somebody on the Doomsday podcast, overcoming great adversity, I think they should consider Frito being the subject of their next piece.
Frito Nation
series.
Yeah. Frito Nation Productions. They could just kind of go one by one. We just have all gone in the tank. They did ask me about Frito and his willingness to do something, and I said I would prefer that y'all do like a part 2 on me. Frito's laughing. All right. Ed, anything else you want to add as we say goodnight to the Doomsdayers?
No, the next game at home against Washington, which will be greatly disadvantaged since the game they had scheduled for today because of COVID got pushed to Tuesday. So they've got to play the Eagles on Tuesday, and then they've got to turn around and travel to Dallas and play Sunday night next week. And the Cowboys could clinch the division at that point.
Yeah. Imagine somebody being disadvantaged around playing the Cowboys around the holidays. That's only happened for what, Ed? The league's only been complaining about that for the last, 40 years? When you consider the Thanksgiving advantage, everybody's thought. So now they'll have a Christmas advantage too.
Jerry will take whatever advantages he can get. We started this podcast talking about that, the bet that DeMarcus Lawrence has made on behalf of the defense, accepted by Dak Prescott and the offensive group for an undetermined prize, sum of money. Team party is what Dak said he thought the ultimate payout would be. But Jerry talked to a small group of reporters, and when this was conveyed to him, he was delighted about it and said that it got so competitive in the same regard between Michael Irvin and Deion Sanders at times back on the 90s Super Bowl teams. And so he's making the point that this is really a good thing for a team to have this kind of internal competition. He said it got to the point where they were betting like $50,000 in team situations. And so Jerry said eventually they had to get in and put an end to it. I question whether that really ever happened, but I think Jerry would just let that go on endlessly.
I would say if you're anyone on this Cowboys offense right now, putting $50,000 on yourself, I think you should seek help. All right, Ed. Merry Christmas to you. And Happy New Year. And then I'll look forward to a Doomsday podcast on the 26th. It'll be next Sunday evening. And appreciate you. And boy, happy birthday to your daughter, Christy. That was neat to see that on social media. Hope you get to have a fun holiday with your family. And wish you the merriest of Christmases from far north Dallas. And for Mark Friedman and Ed Werder, I'm Matt Mosley. Good night.
Hey, it's Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light.
On today's podcast, Record Store Day founder Carrie Colleton is joining us to discuss the April 20th RSD special releases.
Plus, we'll talk live with our audience, the Sound Up Pod Squad, and find out who still listens to vinyl. And some updates from the Beatles universe.
Oh, good. Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters. Get it on Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.